Alright, we're trying something new here. We're going to try a new series. We're going to start something called The Take. Big text. This series is basically going to consist of like me talking about movies. I do that often on this channel, but I figured, you know what? I watch other things, so I figured I would throw in do this once every couple of weeks or so, throw in 2 or 3 or 4, like that range of movies. If I'm watching a show at that point, I'll throw that in there as well. It's 3 movies this time. But I want to do this every couple of weeks just to keep the creative juices flowing of talking about movies, which I've done for a while anyway, but I want to be able to actually do this and try and keep some sort of consistency. So we're going to do that. I've got a collection of movies here. These are basically going to be ramblings, not full-on reviews of these. And I'll give a letter grade whether I say it or I just flash it up on the poster. You're going to see it on the side. So let's just get right into the first movie. Recently I watched this movie called Here. It is the newest, or latest I should say, from Robert Zemeckis. I think it came out maybe last year or a few years ago. Didn't get the chance to watch it until very recently. I had read the original graphic novel that this was based on, and I had really enjoyed it. I think it was around the time when this movie was announced. But this is one of those movies that really, really stuck with me in a way that I did not expect it to. Zemeckis has not been on a great run recently, but I could easily say that this is the best thing Zemeckis has done since Flight with Denzel Washington. This is one of those movies where there is a big hook or gimmick, I should say, which is with a lot of Zemeckis movies. And we are following this one specific place and time. Literally, the movie starts off with the dinosaurs dying, due to the meteor and all that. And we are jumping back and forth in time of following a Victorian era family, like the inventor of the Lazy Boy or something. But the main couple we follow in here is played by Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, which that's a big reunion for the Forrest Gump heads out there, and as well as the screenwriter for that movie, Eric Roth, who also wrote this. I was really surprised by this movie. It does have a very, overly sentimental feeling of oh, everything is happening here. Look, I mean, that's the whole premise. Life happens here. The camera does not move from this one window for the entire runtime. And genuinely, in a lot of places, it reminded me of Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. And, it is answering the big questions about life and what we're doing and sort of like that. But in this case, it eventually just wraps around to being really bleak because there's so much talk about why are we here? Why are we doing all this? Why are we staying here? And I think I really like this because it doesn't really answer those questions. I really thought it would try and wrap around to be we're here because we're supposed to do this. It doesn't answer those. And every time we are jumping around in time, we are seeing all these different things. Because the main couple we follow is, Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. But we are jumping around to a bunch of different characters in this, across time. And it's a shockingly depressing movie that I did not really see coming. And which I don't know if that was intentional or not. That's the interesting thing about it. It feels like it came across that on accident. And you know what? It worked on me. It's not really something I would go to bat for, but I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. It's a very experimental movie for, a big studio movie. Sony released this. It's a very experimental movie that really surprised me. For something that, had this kind of star power behind it. Because, this was being billed when it came out as the big Forrest Gump reunion. So I don't know. I was on the right wavelength with this one. I'd probably give it a B or a B plus. I also saw The Last Showgirl, which was a bit of an Oscar contender last year. Maybe it didn't really materialize in a few ways, but in the process, Pamela Anderson, who led this movie, got a couple nominations. Jamie Lee Curtis really campaigned to try and get an Oscar nomination, but that did not happen. Overall, I thought this movie was okay. The basic premise of this is we are seeing Pamela Anderson as one of those like Vegas showgirls that had always been there for a chunk of her life, and the show, she finds out the show is closing down, and it really like messes with her worldview of what she's gonna do with the rest of her life. And it's directed by Gia Coppola, which this might have been the first movie I've seen of hers, because sometimes I think a movie is hers, and then I think, oh, that's actually Sofia Coppola. I thought going into this was Sofia Coppola. It is not. It's Gia Coppola. But now I thought there was a lot going pretty well for this one. Again really enjoyed Pamela Anderson in this. I fully understand why she was like getting a couple of nominations across the board, because I think she got nominated for like SAG, like she was very much on the path to being an Oscar nominee for this, and then Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here really showed up for that. But I wouldn't have been surprised if she was nominated for this. She really was great in this, and a lot of the cast in this was actually really solid. Uh, Dave Bautista, who I did not know was in this, he did a really good job. He's really becoming like, there was a recent article that came out of like who's the best wrestler turned actors, and he was number one. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. He really showed a side to him in this that I never really. I mean, I would have loved to see him do. I just didn't know he was going to do it this soon. That's really great. Kiernan Shipka was also really good in this. Finally seeing her something. I mean, I like her, but it's finally good seeing her something in like something like this. Didn't know Brenda Song was in this, and she was good. Although, again, Jamie Lee Curtis, I typically like her, but also, why was she an Oscar contender for this? Because she was pushing really hard for this movie. It could have been the passion of the movie, or it could have just been like, oh, maybe she's gonna get another Oscar nomination. She did not, but like, she wasn't my favorite performance in this one. Although I will say, the biggest, um, the biggest problem with this was the script. It really, honestly, it had a big. I literally said out loud, and I wrote this on my letterbox, of just like, that's the whole movie. It was like, I didn't know this was a very short movie. It was along the lines of like, it was at least under 90 minutes. Yeah, it was 89 minutes. I have it up on my end. But yeah, just knowing that, I didn't know it was that short. It felt like there was so much more potential that this movie could have dived into. It was very abstract in a lot of ways, which in the moment I was appreciating, but I also didn't know that the movie was gonna be done relatively soon. But I was really jiving with it until then. If it was gonna take, it was if it was gonna keep this abstract, like feeling to it, I would have loved a little bit more meat with this movie, because honestly, it was really good until it ended, and a lot of things were like kind of left up in the air, and that really didn't sit well with me. Like, I can understand why it would for some people. Doing an ending like that for a different movie would work for that, but it did not land with me for this. Although it did have a good Miley Cyrus song. I'll give it that. So I think I'll settle on a B minus for The Last Showgirl. I would still recommend it.
Dragon Ball Evolution.
Last movie we're talking about in this episode is Dragon Ball Evolution, which I've seen this movie multiple times. Don't ask why. I have. But I was at that. Funny enough, I'm actually binging the show Shameless right now. I'm really enjoying it, although it's one of those shows where I can't really binge too much of that. So I watch a few episodes, then I come back. Maybe I put something else on, or I go out and like get stuff done in the day. I go grocery shopping, and then I come back to it. So I'm sitting there. I got through a couple episodes of Shameless, and like, you know what? I'm gonna turn something else on. I gotta do some house cleaning, so I just turn on Dragon Ball Evolution. And then it hits me that both Justin Chatwin and Emmy Rossum are both in this movie pre-Shameless, and obviously they're both in Shameless, and they have incredible chemistry in Shameless, and for some reason they have kind of good chemistry in this. Yes, I know. I feel like I can do a whole video on this, and I'm not even a Dragon Ball fan. I'm like not a Dragon Ball fan. I don't know anything about Dragon Ball. So I do not have that context of what they get wrong, which, granted, for this movie, I can guess. I can look at something that is supposed to be from Dragon Ball and go, they probably got that wrong. But for the most part, yeah, I did kind of hate it, but also, like, I don't have the connection to it that makes me go, like, oh, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. So I can't call it the worst movie I've ever seen because of that. But also, it is just really weird and bad. Just because, like, why it's so funny every time you see him, like you see Justin Chatwin go like, I am Goku, and I just think to myself, like, no, you're not. You are a white guy named Goku. Like, that's really funny. Like, and I'm assuming that, like, well, I don't have to assume it. Everybody hates this movie. I don't know. I don't think there is a positive review of this. If anyone, it's maybe IGN, which you never know. And honestly, if you take, this is what I do with this kind of stuff. If you take out the Dragon Ball context of this movie, it's still not that great. There's really weird inconsistencies. It's too short. I can't really fault the effects in this because they had like a shockingly low budget for this movie because I think the rug got pulled under them during production. That's how James Marsters, who I love, was playing Piccolo, and I think like they got they got a lot of big names on paper and they just never showed up. So I think they got like a $30 million budget for this movie, which, granted, $30 million in 2009, this is not the worst looking movie I've ever seen. I mean, like, the effects for the Kamehameha at the end are really bad. Like, don't get me wrong, but I've seen worse. I've seen Megalopolis. But no, this was just such a weird movie. It just, for some reason, it still felt like I was watching Shameless, which... Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just because Justin Chatwin and Emmy Rossum are in it. But honestly, this is like, obviously it's very obviously bad, but I do not have the personal connection to Dragon Ball to, like, really hate this with my entire body. Like my entire being and soul, which, granted, I hate the M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender movie with all of my hate and passion, and I've never seen that show. So I don't know what it is. But yeah, no, that being said, I still give this like a D. It's bad. That's going to be the end of the first episode of The Take. Let me know what you guys think of this format. It's going to probably be really loose. I mean, most of these videos are pretty loose anyway and off the fly. But this one's kind of just, like, rambling to try and, like, talk about things I've watched. So I'm probably just going to leave it at that. And yeah, let me know what you think. And that is going to be the end of the video.